They say truckers see things no one else ever does. When the rest of the world sleeps, they're out there miles of black asphalt, empty highways, and shadows that don't belong. Some of those shadows move, some whisper, and some follow. These are the true scary stories from long trucking routes. So buckle up, because the road ahead isn't empty. It's waiting. The vanishing hitchhiker. Marcus had been driving trucks for almost a decade. He knew every stretch of Route 56 like the back of his hand. The long, winding road cut through desolate farmland, dipped into thick woods, and stretched 4 miles without so much as a gas station. Most nights, he preferred it that way, quiet, predictable, no traffic. But on one particular night, the road wasn't empty. It was just past 2 a.m. when Marcus spotted her. A woman stood at the side of the road, one arm raised, thumb pointed out in the classic hitchhiker's pose. She was wearing a pale dress, her hair long and dark, hanging damply over her shoulders. Marcus frowned. He rarely saw anyone walking that stretch of road, let alone in the dead of night. Against his better judgment, he slowed his rig and pulled over. She climbed in without a word. Her skin looked cold, almost gray in the glow of the dashboard lights. She didn't thank him, didn't even look at him, just stared out the window, her hands folded in her lap. Marcus tried small talk. "Where are you headed?" "Home," she whispered. Her voice was barely audible, but it sent a shiver down his spine. He nodded slowly. "Where's that?" She lifted one hand and pointed down the road. "Not far. 4 miles." They drove in silence. Marcus kept sneaking glances at her unease building in his chest. Something about the way she sat so still, her dress unmoving even when the cab rattled, felt wrong. "Finally," she said softly. "Here?" Marcus pulled over in front of a small farmhouse set back from the road. The windows were dark, the porch sagging with age. When he turned to tell her they had arrived, she was gone. The passenger seat was empty. The door hadn't opened. The handle hadn't moved. And yet she wasn't there anymore. Marcus sat frozen, heart hammering. Slowly, he climbed out of the cab, half expecting to see her walking toward the house. But the yard was empty. Just as he turned to get back into his truck, a porch light flicked on. An old woman stepped out. "You see her too?" she called. Marcus blinked. "What?" The woman sighed heavily. "My daughter. She died on this road 20 years ago. Folks still pick her up sometimes. She never makes it past the drive." Marcus didn't wait for more. He climbed back into his truck and floored it. The image of that pale figure burned into his memory. He never drove Route 56 at night again. The midnight rest stop for long-haul drivers. Rest stops are lifelines. A place to stretch, use the bathroom, grab a cup of stale coffee, and maybe close your eyes for a few hours before the next leg of the trip. But every trucker knows that not all rest stops are the same. Some are bright, safe, busy with other rigs humming through the night. And then there are the others isolated, dimly lit, with vending machines that barely work in parking lots where silence presses down like a weight. It was at one of those stops that Caleb had his worst night on the road. Caleb had been hauling a refrigerated trailer across 3 states, running behind schedule after losing hours to a blown tire. By the time he spotted the sign for a rest area, his eyes were burning and his hands trembled on the wheel. The place looked deserted. One row of flickering lights cast long, lonely shadows across the cracked asphalt. A single sedan sat near the far end. But otherwise the lot was empty. Caleb parked, shut off the engine, and sat for a moment in the sudden silence. The only sound was the faint buzz of the lights and the low hum of his trailer-esque cooling system. He grabbed his thermos, climbed down, and stretched. His bones popped like old wood. Then, deciding he'd better hit the restroom before dozing off, he headed toward the squat concrete building at the center of the lot. That was when he noticed the sedan. There was someone sitting inside, not driving, not moving, just sitting. At first, Caleb thought nothing of it. Travelers napped in cars all the time, but as he drew closer to the restroom, the hairs on his neck prickled. The figure inside the sedan was turned toward him, watching. The windows were too dark to make out details, but Caleb swore he could feel the person's gaze following him all the way to the restroom door. Inside, the air smelled of bleach and damp concrete. The hum of a faulty fluorescent bulb echoed above. Caleb did his business quickly, wanting to get back to his cab, but when he pushed the door open, he froze. The sedan was gone. The parking lot stretched out empty beneath the flickering lights. Relief washed through him until he noticed something new. His truck's passenger door was ajar. Caleb's heart slammed into his ribs. He knew he had locked both doors before stepping out. He always did. His hand tightened on the thermos. Gripping it like a weapon, he crept toward the cab, each step echoing too loudly in the silent lot. When he reached the door, he yanked it open ready to swing if someone jumped out, but the cab was empty. Nothing looked disturbed. No one crouched behind the seats. Caleb climbed in quickly, slamming the lock down. His breath came fast, clouding the cold windshield. He told himself it had been the wind. Or maybe he hadn't shut the door all the way. He turned the key in the ignition. The engine roared to life. He reached for the shifter, then froze again. In the center of his dash, resting neatly on top of his logbook, was a single object. A car. Key. Old. Rusted. Attached to a small leather gate. He hadn't seen it before. It hadn't been there when he parked. Caleb's stomach dropped. His hands trembled as he shoved the rig into gear. Tires squealed as he tore out of the lot. Gravel sprang behind him. He didn't stop until the rest stop was miles behind. When he finally dared to glance at the dash, the key was gone. He never told the dispatch about that night. Never reported it to the police. He just avoided that stretch of highway from then on. But sometimes, when the road is especially quiet and the night is especially dark, Caleb swears he hears the click of a car door behind him. And when he looks in his mirrors, for just a second, there's always a sedan following far, far back. Headlights off. The phantom convoy most truckers will tell you. The CB radio can be a comfort on long hauls, a lifeline when the night stretches forever and the highway feels like it's swallowing you whole. But sometimes, it carries voices you don't want to hear. Derek was hauling a flatbed through the Midwest, endless farmland rolling out on either side. It was after midnight, and he hadn't seen another vehicle in nearly an hour. His cab smelled faintly of stale coffee and diesel, the hum of the tires blending with the static of his radio. He was starting to nod when the CB crackled to life. Breaker 19. Anyone out there? The voice was low, rough, but oddly distant. Derek keyed his mic. Copied that. Where you headed, driver? A pause. Then, same place as you. Derek frowned. He hadn't seen a single set of headlights for miles. You out on 94? Static hissed. Then another voice, different, this time higher, sharper. We're right behind you. Derek's grip tightened on the wheel. His mirrors showed only black road stretching into blacker night. No headlights, no taillights, nothing. You boys messing around, he said, forcing a laugh. The radio went dead. For 10 minutes, the road was silent again. Just when Derek started to convince himself it had been a prankster with a long-range rig, the CB lit up once more. Convoy! Rolling through. The first voice again, singing, almost. Convoy rolling through. Another voice joined. Then another. Dozens of voices, layered and strange, chanting in unison through the static. Derek's skin crawled. He turned the radio down, but the voices bled through anyway, whispering beneath the static like they were in the cab with him. Then came the horns, long, low blasts of truck horns echoing through the night. 1, 2, 3. Derek snapped his eyes to the mirrors, and his stomach dropped. Headlights. Not one or two, but a line of them. At least a dozen, maybe more, stretching across both lanes, all bearing down on him. He hadn't seen them appear. 1 second the road was empty, the next it was alive with rumbling engines and burning lights. The horns blared again, so loud his chest rattled. Derek's instincts screamed to pull over, but the shoulder was narrow, and the rigs behind him were coming fast. Too fast. He gripped the wheel, heart hammering, as the convoy closed in. Then suddenly, they were gone. No horns, no headlights, nothing but the empty stretch of highway. Derek drove until dawn without touching his radio again. When he finally stopped at a truck stop for breakfast, he asked an old-timer about phantom convoys. The man's face went pale. They say there's a pack of drivers who died in a pileup out here back in the 70s, he muttered. Fog rolled in. Chain reaction took out near 20 rigs. Folks swear they still roll together some nights, calling out on the CB. If you see their lights, best pray they pass you by. Derek never used his CB radio again after midnight. But sometimes, when the road fogs over and the static hums just right, he swears he hears it again. Convoy rolling through. The black dog of Route 66. Every trucker has heard of it. Some laugh it off. Some refuse to talk about it at all. But the legend lingers across CB chatter and coffee counters at dusty diners. The black dog of Route 66. They say if you see it once, you'll crash before morning. Luis had been on the road for nearly 20 hours. Dispatch had pushed him hard, promising a bonus if he could make it to California ahead of schedule. He hated runs like that long. Punishing stretches with little sleep but money was money. By the time he hit the stretch of Route 66 cutting through the desert, his eyelids were sandpaper. The radio was silent. The desert wind a constant whisper outside his cab. That was when he saw it. A shape darting across the road, too fast to catch clearly. He slammed the brakes, heart leaping. Tires screeched. The rig shuddered to a stop. In the beam of his headlights stood a dog. It was massive, black as tar, its fur matted and bristling. Its eyes glowed yellow, catching the light like twin embers. It didn't move. It just stood there, staring straight at him. Luis gripped the wheel until his knuckles whitened. The dog's mouth curled back, revealing teeth too long, too sharp for any normal animal. Then, in the blink of an eye, it was gone. Not ran off. Not trotted into the desert. Gone. The road was empty. Luis sat there, heart pounding, until his breath steadied enough to shift back into gear. He told himself it had been a trick of the light, exhaustion playing games with his mind. But the night had other plans. An hour later, as he crested a hill, the black dog was there again, standing at the edge of the road this time, head tilted, those glowing eyes fixed on him. Luis swerved instinctively, tires screeching as his trailer fit. He fought the wheel, sweat pouring down his face, until the rig straightened out. In the mirror, the road behind him was empty. But when he glanced forward again, the dog was running alongside his cab. Its legs moved unnaturally fast, claws scraping against asphalt, keeping pace with 40 tons of steel. Its head was level with his window, those burning eyes staring directly into his. Luis screamed, jerking the wheel. The rig lurched, nearly tipping before he corrected. When he looked again, the dog was gone. By dawn, he pulled into the first diner he found, his hands still shaking. An older driver at the counter noticed and asked if he was all right. Luis hesitated, then muttered, "Think I saw a dog on the road last night." The man's face hardened. Black one, big eyes like fire. Luis froze. The old-timer nodded slowly. "Happens out there sometimes. Some folks say it's a demon. Hunts tired drivers. Others say it's the spirit of a hound that died in one of the old wrecks. Doesn't matter what you believe if you see it. Best pull over. Best not test the road again until the sun's up." Luis stared into his coffee, his pulse still racing. He never admitted it out loud, but deep down he knew the truth. The black dog hadn't just been on the road, it had been running with him, watching. And if he ever saw it again, he might not make it out alive. Closing narration. These are the kinds of things you only hear about from the men and women who drive America's veins of asphalt when the rest of the world sleeps. Vanishing hitchhikers. Empty rest stops that aren't as empty as they seem. Phantom convoys roaring through the night. And the black dog that waits on Route 66. So next time you find yourself driving a lonely road at 3 a.m., remember, the highways aren't empty. They